schoolwork. It's squeezing us of our final brain cells, and we are stuck to be sitting here trying to record with no idea what to say.
Hey guys, this is Agnibarna
And Maira,
Welcome to the Hidden Coconuts podcast,
the show that dives deep into the lives of us coconuts, brown on the outside, white on the inside.
or in other words, those of us who identify as both South Asian and North American, juggling two identities, contemplating how they coexist.
If you empathize, or you were just in the neighborhood, stick around and let's get cracking our inner coconuts. This episode was actually recorded in early 2022. That's why we're talking about midterms. It's that time of year, the busiest one ever. We're smack dab in the middle of the semester. Midterms are being thrown upon us. And it's so stressful because not only do we have the other stuff, the typical things we have to worry about and stress about, also the burden of being a minority.
But on top of academic stress is the cultural stress, and maybe not directly related to the semester, but school in general and what we're expected to do. For example, I come from a very studious family, and every time my grandma calls to talk to me, one of the first things she asks is if I got any marks back this past week or when my next big test is. Like, literally, it's always that, I can guarantee you.
That is stressful within itself. Way to break the ice.
Like, a couple weeks ago, I was telling her that of the 500 students in my bio class, I was one of the 15 chosen to attend a Peru experience and learn about the Peruvian healthcare system. You know what she says? She's like, "Oh, good for you. So did you get your midterm marks back for that course as well?"
Really?
I was so excited to tell her this. And yes, she was excited, but she was more worried about my mark, let's be honest.
Oh, that's frustrating. See, I noticed one thing that matters a lot to this culture is the number, which we'll probably get into in more detail, but it's not about like what you learn or not, but a lot of the times they're so fixated on like getting like a 90 or above a 90.
Yes, and it also has to be certain courses in certain fields where the numbers matter. So for like a lot of my courses and your studies as well, we're in programs out of the conventional quote unquote fields people would want us to be in. So sometimes when people hear that I really enjoy learning what I'm learning, overall they're just shocked that the stuff I learn can actually be learned in school.
Interesting. Because like probably back over there's not much of an option for that field to learn, so they don't know like the opportunities that it holds.
Yeah, so for context, I'm specializing in psychology, considering med school afterwards, so maybe one day I'll fit their expectations. But now, the brown aunties and uncles always give a weird look or superficial smile when I say I'm in a psych program. But like, I love my courses, and psychology is so important for everyday life. People from that region just see it as an easy way out or a chance to get higher marks, but that is not the case. Psychology is a life science that requires legitimate scientific research. But yeah, people like get really surprised when I tell them that I take courses where we analyze characters in movies to study the human mind. They'll be like, "You can do that in school?" Because they're used to like x is equal to negative b plus or minus the yeah.
X.
Equals negative b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a.
I feel like, okay, sorry to all the math people out there, but like, I don't get when I'm gonna use y equals mx plus b out in the real world. Okay, like I don't plan on drawing lines. And I'm also minoring in psych, so I think it's really, really, really useful. People are everywhere. Studying psych equals studying people. Therefore, it is highly applicable and important because it helps us to understand each other better. So it's very upsetting to know that some people don't see the value in that, and being judged on the fact that you're pursuing something that you not only love, but that is interesting and applicable is very sad.
When you love something and when you're like doing something out of pure passion and it makes you so giddy, you do it and study it and pursue a career in it because you want to. And nobody even has to tell you, like, "Oh, did you do your homework?" or "Oh, did you study?" You just naturally do it, and subconsciously even. Like, you apply what you learned to outside situations without even realizing it. At least for me, I literally find myself analyzing whatever I'm watching or who I'm even talking to. And I don't have to sit there and memorize things until I'm like bored out of my mind because I like it. And that's why it comes naturally. And I'm pretty sure you can connect to this too based on what you're studying.
Definitely. And at this point, at least, I have no motivation whatsoever to do things that I'm not interested in. I feel like over time, my tolerance to certain subjects has just gone out the window. But at the same time, I feel like whereas I am super excited about what I learn, when I see that people don't relate to that or like don't understand like how cool it is that there's this idiom that exists in this language and that means making a cheese out of something. Like they don't really understand what fascinates me. And again, I think that feeds into like my demoralization and realizing like, oh, okay, maybe like I'm not doing the best thing or like I should be studying something else. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, totally. And I think, in a way, I would consider ourselves lucky to have at least grown up in families where they support whatever we chose to pursue. I know that probably some of our other coconut friends might have selected their programs based on what their parents wanted for them. And literally in any culture, probably collectivist ones, they might be doing something out of for the sake of their families. So in that sense, we got lucky. And like my mom, if someone makes that face, like, oh, psychology, she's pretty good at handling the situation, and maybe even adding, oh, this is actually her pre med degree. And then when you tell them it's a pre med degree, their faces literally light up, and they're like, oh, medicine, good for you! I'm so proud of you. Like, dude, the double standards of these people.
You're right, though. I didn't really look at it from that perspective, and it's definitely nice to know that at least family supports you, and family does have a big influence on like my decisions. Back in like Pakistan, where like my parents grew up, there was basically only two career paths. You could either become a doctor or an engineer, and then that again excludes women who would just stay at home and like work and stuff. That has changed. Like now, women can get education, but it's very like very limited in terms of fields, and there's definitely like a hierarchy of different jobs having different like statuses. So like teaching, which is what I want to go into, is very very near to the bottom, especially because to be a teacher over there, you don't need to go to like teachers college or anything. You can basically just apply and become a teacher. So it's not seen as a very prestigious thing.
Yeah, and I can kind of relate, but in the opposite way. So sometimes if someone from here asks me what my long term goals are, I'm kind of iffy to tell them that I really want to go into medicine in the future because of the brown people stereotype here, you know? Like, you don't want to feed into the stereotype that people here already have of us, that we're like doctors and engineers and lawyers. But still, what I've chosen to do and what I want to keep doing, it's all because this is what I'm passionate about. And I don't even like want to become a family physician. I'm actually so fascinated by obstetrics and gynecology, which in itself is a huge taboo factor in our familial regions. I'm scared to even mention it to my extended family. Dude, I was even scared to tell my mom at first that I can see myself as an OBGYN. Like, my grandmother, her side of the family are big on politics and they're like these big politicians. So somehow a part of her really wants me to become a politician. So
Ah,
it's weird that we're kind of scared to say our goals to both our roots and our lives here as well, at least for me.
dang, that okay, first of all, I'm learning new things about you every time, which is really cool. Second, I get that. It's really frustrating because it feels like you're not living for yourself. It's like, who do I please? Do I listen to my family or do I just try to fit in with the culture? And in the long run, like that's just really draining because we don't get the true experience of being ourselves.
Yeah, and also people here will be like, dude, you do you and pay attention to no background noise, but they don't understand or have the synaptic connections to realize that although we grew up here in a North American individualist society, we come from a collectivist society where you do everything for or with each other. And they care so much about what other people think. And so I'd say that kind of rubs off on us as well, and we crave that reassurance to still be considered a part of whatever group we consider ourselves to be in.
It's a really good point. Absolutely.
As much as I want to like be me and do whatever, there's always like an auntie lurking somewhere around the corner stalking my Facebook who, in a way, I'm still giving the time of day when I really don't need to.
And it's just so toxic. Like, do they not sorry, aunties, but like do not have anything better to do than to like watch us through a crack.
I like usually tag along with my mom to any dinner invites. I kind of like to eavesdrop on some of their conversations, but the way they talk, like, my mom is pretty good at staying away from it. But the other people I've seen will literally huddle in a group, touching foreheads, and they're like talking about this one person's daughter's friend who wore this specific top to this one event after she got divorced or something. That's so creepy.
That is
You'll be surprised at how much they know.
it's scary. And also like the gossip, the auntie gossip spreads faster than the plague. Literally tell one auntie on the corner of the city and like the other one will know within like the day. I don't know if it's false news or even if it's true, but like everything just spreads so quickly and then all of a sudden you have this whole like burden of auntie scorn. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and there's also the thing about respecting your elders. So you can't even like blatantly tell them off like you can't a paparazzi.
Seriously though, sometimes I just imagine like me just standing up to them and the weird like looks they give. And it feels good, but you know in reality like you just can't do that. And like my brother, he used to be in business, but he recently changed to like sociology. My
Good for him.
yeah, right? Like sociology is cool. I think it's really applicable and it's
Yeah.
interesting. As soon as my dad told our extended family on the phone, they're like, "Oh, so like what can you even do with a sociology degree? Like what is that? Like what is he trying to do?" And it's not helpful because it's not necessarily a very common path people take, but that doesn't mean it's not going to get you anywhere.
You can learn so much through sociology. I initially was minoring in sociology until I switched to a psychology specialist, so my main focus now is solely psychology courses. But through the few sociology courses I have taken, I've learned way more than what my grade 11 functions course taught me, no offense. But like, yeah, the socioeconomic status, why people of color are more prone to cancerous cells, and just like the origin of stuff, like how the Khwajasira were such a respected group of people during the Mughal Empire, but after British colonization, that's when the respect began to go away because the British thought that these people did not match their ideas of gender norms. Even the idea of a nuclear family and that there's a mom who's a homemaker and there's a dad who's a breadwinner. This is all relatively new ideology from around the 1900s that the Europeans normalized. Like, even a few hundred years ago, cisgender women and men shared equal labor, if not a matriarchy. So, like around the 1600s ish, especially in indigenous communities, there were no gender ideologies of the at least of the current extent, more or less. Modern heteronormativity is mostly European.
How I didn't really realize that it was them who brought that ideal. So thank you for telling me. And I guess that goes to show, like, I don't know what that goes
How
to show.
whitewashed we are.
There we go.
At one point, British people even controlled and ruled over the countries we are originally from. And so much of what we do, even like the school systems in Bangladesh and like South Asia in general, they follow the European curriculum. So like they have A levels and O levels, and a lot of their vocabulary is the same as their.
Right. But yeah, I remember like I took SAP in grade 10.
Yeah.
So SAP, for those who don't know, is like Introduction to Sociology, Anthropology, and Psychology. And that course was life-changing. Like by far my favorite course in high school, and it taught me so much about just like how to look at the world. And just compared to like all my other courses, I feel like that was the most useful too.
Like, getting back to what I said in the beginning, I was talking to a friend from Bangladesh and telling her about my sociology courses. Even my mom, I was telling her about what I learned. I was so enraptured with my coursework that I just wanted to share everything with the world. And so, everyone from that subcontinent, when I tell them what I've learned so far, they're surprised that they're like, they teach you these things in university. So, there's so many levels of intelligence, and there are theories to determine and measure this, like Carroll's three-stratum theory of intelligence, Sternberg's triarchic theory of intelligence, or even Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences. Like, intelligence doesn't mean you can just recite the periodic table or solve for x. Intelligence varies based on person to person. It can also mean you can play Fly to the Bumblebee on the flute, or you can empathize with others, or even the ability to think of innovative ideas or be creative. Those are different kinds of intelligences. You can't tell a fish to go climb a tree.
Dang, that's exactly what came to my mind. I'm really glad you brought that up. There's so many faculties, like you could do film studies or religious studies all the way to like, I don't know, neuroscience, okay? These fields exist for a reason.
We
Lots
need
of,
them.
yeah, they go somewhere.
Yes, and growing up, have you ever had someone tell you that, oh, you better hit the books, or you better do your homework, or you'll end up like that woman cleaning the streets outside? But at the same time, they don't realize that because that person is cleaning the streets are clean. You're not going to go out there and do it. We need them as much as we need your engineering degree. I don't even want to downgrade engineers because my mom's a professor in engineering, but you get the point.
Yeah, every role is important, if not essential. And everyone again has like their own talents or they're good at something. So I feel like it's like why should there be a need to kind of force somebody into a position or like make them go through a certain pathway when they could be doing something much better? Like some people are just destined to do what's not considered typical. Also, going back to like the essential thing, I remember in sociology in first year, I had to make a system and distribute money to certain jobs as if I were like somebody from the government.
Mm.
And so one of the jobs, like a doctor, and another was like the garbage pickup people, right? So I just like sat there for a minute and thought, okay, could we even go like 2 weeks without somebody picking up garbage for us? Like imagine if there's nobody that would collect that. We would be like a total disaster, quite literally.
I'm taking an anatomy and physiology course that we have weekly tutorials in, where alongside case studies, we also look at the career side of stuff and what we can do and consider after graduation, because being like a biology course, most people are in it because they're considering medical school. But through our tutorials, we've met people like, for example, one of our first tutorials, we had a woman come in. She initially was considering medical school. That's the idea she came into university with. But after she got rejected, her application got rejected, she completely switched gears and now she's working in the business side, the business management side of hospitals. So she oversees the setup of COVID-19 tests, like the screen tests, makes sure COVID vaccines get from one country to another safely. So it's an opportunity to open everyone's eyes, and that there are many levels, so many levels, and even like a particular field you're considering. Going into science or medical science doesn't necessarily mean having to become a doctor. You can be a hospital admin, even.
Exactly. And like if you take a hospital, there's so many jobs there, right? There's people like working on computers, people that do like the technical stuff, oversee machine procedures and stuff like x-rays. There's such diversities even within those fields. And I'm thankful that at least over here there's some understanding, and like I get that there's stigma surrounding some fields. People might think that university is better than college or stuff. But I think that high schools are doing a good job of educating everyone and telling them that it's okay to take whatever path. I think there is more of an understanding here in this culture than back at our home in South Asia that going through other pathways than university is okay. There's still a long way to go for that, but we're getting somewhere.
There's literally like so many ways for you to feel passionate about something. It's taken me a while to actually accept it and acknowledge it and be open with telling people I'm studying psychology, but I like learning about it. There are so many options and things to find. For instance, I've been loving my biopsychology and abnormal psychology courses, but I'm also excited about a research opportunity I have coming up next fall regarding brain imaging. People have socially constructed this time limit that we have to have certain things done by certain ages, and that it's all a big competition, but literally, no.
Even because I've heard this in the past, but some people think that psych is also an easy way out. First of all,
Exactly.
no, like you can't just quantify courses like that. They're different, doesn't mean they're easy. And
Yeah.
it's really interesting. If you're passionate about it, I think that that is more of a motivation than deadlines for like a science lab. So if something motivates you, I think that you should go after it.
Do you have the concept of bird courses in your
Yes,
school?
we have the concept.
Sometimes the most commonly known bird courses or like AZMAR courses are under the ICT umbrella, and I am literally nowhere near commerce or any of those subjects to be able to do good in that course.
That's true. Anything business just makes me feel nauseous. You're right. What works for somebody might not work for the other.
And just since we're being a little sassy, for the people who say psychology is the easy way out, you try telling me the function the anterior pituitary gland has on secreting estrogen from the ovaries.
Yes.
Do you even know where the anterior pituitary gland is?
Do you
is my
even know what
question.
ovaries are? Come on. And yeah, like I didn't even know there's so many fields, but every time you talk about your courses or something, I'm always surprised because I think it's so cool how they're teaching such a wide variety of things within this one field.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm talking too much, like I'm getting way too much in the details. I want to hear more about you as well. I'm just like here saying all these things, but after I say it, I'm like, whoa. One, I just got off track, and two, I'm pretty sure I cut you off again.
No, don't worry about it. Like, honestly, I love hearing what you have to say, and you probably have more words and stuff to say, and you're more articulate than I am, so that's great. So now I'm just trying to think about my life. French. Okay, so I wasn't even like sure I wanted to go into French. And I specifically remember on the day of my grade 9 French exam, my teacher asked me if I was continuing with French. And I said, I'm not very serious about French. And so she's like, oh, okay. Then in the summer before grade 10, I made some course adjustments and I realized that probably if my end goal is to become a teacher, French would be a good idea. So I continued to pursue it, not even being sure what that would do. Like, it was cool. French is nice. I felt like I was good at it. So I just continued during high school and even till grade 12, like before applying, I was pretty set on social sciences. But then I realized that the university I wanted to go to had a really good French program and it would come with lots of benefits. And if I maintained an average of 70, it would guarantee that I could get into teachers college. So that's kind of,
I didn't know that.
yeah. So it was what I wanted to do and it would be really helpful. So that's why I took it. And I was still planning to like minor in sociology because that's pretty much what my heart was set on. But I think I'm very happy with the decision I made because I'm finding it so cool to learn about this language and develop skills because like people are like, what can you do with a degree in French? Even at one point I was one of those people asking, but again, it's a language. People speak languages. This is gonna like help me to connect with others, to communicate, to express myself, and also considering that it's a really popular language, a lot of countries speak it. It would just be really helpful.
Think of the movies as well. Like French cinema for me is like some of the most like the world's top tier entertainment.
I didn't even know that. But like, yeah, I think that it's easy for us to not realize the importance of language. Even when I talk to like family, like, oh, like French, okay. So like, what do you want to do? I'll be like, a teacher. And they're like, okay, yeah, whatever, you do you. I don't want to care about what other people think. And I get that it's not super, super cool.
It is cool.
Thank you.
It's
And I think it's just really rewarding in nature. All my life, my mom, actually, she runs a daycare at home. So I've been surrounded by kids and like seeing them learn new things. It touches your heart in such a special way. So being able to contribute to a child's life in that way and to help them develop is what makes me happy. So I'm not going to care what Susie down the street thinks about that. I love it. And I don't know, like sometimes I feel kind of alone in a sense. I don't know many other people except for the people that I'm in school with that study French. So I'll learn a new poem or I'll read a book. And it'll be like, wow, that was cool. Like the author is saying this, or like, wow, that was terrible. Like this guy is so pessimistic. But I don't really have anyone to relate with. And it doesn't encourage me to feel good about what I'm learning.
Think of all the possibilities you'll get when you go to a French speaking country. Like the people you would wow, like when you open your mouth.
That's true. That's the goal. And I'm glad there's a lot of French-speaking countries
Even
because
Canada is French-speaking country.
yeah, we're so lucky to have like a province in our own country where we can use that language. Except I wish they were a little more welcoming.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, actually, you can go there during the summer to Quebec in a city, and you live with a family, and you go to like a French immersion school, and you practice your French, and it's a great experience. And you can even get a bursary to like accommodate your expenses. And I'm actually looking into it because that sounds amazing. But up till now, I was pretty iffy just because I don't know if I would be treated in the nicest way over there. So it's
Yeah.
sad because now I have to face another barrier to this experience because of who I am.
I think it'll be really cool to discuss this in full in an upcoming episode because I too am considering going on an exchange to Europe during the winter 2023 term. And I also do agree with you, and I really do think your thoughts and your concerns are valid because, as much as we don't want to admit it, we do have things to worry about or consider that somebody of a lighter skin tone might not need to, or of a different religion, even.
Exactly. It's just always lurking in the background, and sometimes it becomes more apparent, but there is that extra thing that we do worry about. And it's kind of at this point just a fact.
You've reached the end of another episode of The Hidden Coconuts. Thanks for listening.
Be sure to check out our Instagram at The Hidden Coconuts for bloopers, more of our wandering thoughts, and a chance to be a guest on our show. We love to discuss and tackle everyday coconut quandaries, so stay tuned, and we'll see you on top of the coconut tree soon.